couple little
All right.
news tidbits.
Here we are.
Huawei is the second biggest smartphone maker in the world, not Apple. That happened a while ago, but I guess that's true for the entire year. And also the EU has said no to Apple, and they're going to require USB-C on phones.
And that's why Apple's going to have no ports.
Yeah.
That's the loophole, right?
I feel like, well, don't you feel like they were kind of moving there anyway? I mean,
Yeah.
they can now they can blame the EU for something they were going to do anyway. I like the Lightning port.
Yeah, it is more convenient, honestly, than the C. It's smaller.
Yeah, it's got a better connection too.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
But that's why we can't have nice things.
Exactly. Sorry, big tech in the U.S.
I don't know how Apple's going to survive, though. It's not like they don't have any money.
Oh my God, the switchover costs.
I mean, like, imagine like the EU is like, we'll fine you $1 for every device you ship, and you're like, that it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that'd be nothing.
No, it'd be...
Yeah, like I said the other day, I go to a gym that still has the old iPod connector on the machines, you know, like.
Well, this isn't going to be implemented anytime soon either.
No,
I think
the EU.
The law has to be written, I think, by like July or something, and then rolled out. It'll be like 2025, and we'll be on the USB Type F.
Right. Right. Oh.
All right. It's a good thing there's nothing going on. Just nothing. Uh-oh. I don't remember which button's mapped for the intro.
Was test them now.
I think that's intro. That should be outro. There we go.
See? Easy.
It's plus and... Yeah, easy.
Change them again next week.
Yeah. Problem is, it used to be numbers 4 and 6, and now it's plus and minus. So plus should be intro. Yeah.
Where is this a software thing?
Yeah, well, it's on this.
Make a little label.
You make a little label.
Jeez. Oh, by the way, thank you for using the most impervious to scissors material ever made.
Hold on, no, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Jeez. Oh, man.
Welcome back to where everything's dead, including Paul and I.
Yep. Live from hell. It's the latest episode.
If we wait long enough, my furnace will kick on and it'll get a little warm in here. Just get that authentic experience.
Right.
So
good.
If you're a developer listening to this and you make a living off of a UWP apps, the in-ad monetization of that, we've got some news for you. You're not going to be doing that after July.
Yeah. You know, how do I say this delicately? As the person at the center of last year's UWP is dead controversy, I'm going to say something a little controversial. I don't actually think this has that much to do with UWP, and it has more to do with the store. And to be clear, a couple things I should say. One is the whole notion of UWP, that the phrase UWP is dead came from a senior executive at Microsoft. Okay, that's not how I said it. That was literally how they said it. But because we have to kind of work around the tortured, language that Microsoft always uses, although that's pretty damn direct. UWP, like any developer technology, doesn't just disappear from the face of the earth. I mean, it is still and will be for the foreseeable future the only way to write apps for platforms like Surface Hub or HoloLens and so forth. So it's the only way to write apps that we can write one app that runs across Windows, Xbox, it's Surface, whatever, Surface Hub. So it doesn't just disappear. The whole notion of UWP is dead was always about UWP as the platform, the way forward for Microsoft's developers targeting the client, such as it is, because it's really multiple clients. This is just something that didn't fly with most developers. Microsoft took a while to figure this out, but they eventually started supporting some of their older technologies as well. And the things that used to be unique to UWP are now and will be made available in the future to these other frameworks and platforms. And that's what that is.
Yeah.
I think people get a little sensitive about that kind of thing. The thing that kicked this all off, you can go back and look this up for yourself on our site on Thurrott.com, is ahead of Build last year, as I recall. There had been some announcements or news or whatever it was about the store, and I was like, I'm not saying the store never dies, just like UWP, but I'm getting the feeling like the store becomes a lot less important, and that was verified at Build when Microsoft said, we're going to let people that make store apps today distribute them outside of the store, which is a huge jump and kind of a major issue for anyone, for the store, I guess, because people just weren't going to the store. And people have other ways of getting apps. I mean, the discoverability on the web is terrible, but people are used to installing things through browsers and so forth. So that's one of the things that Microsoft's been working on, complicated by the switch over to Edge, et cetera, et cetera. But it was at Build where I had heard that UWP was dead, which is why I wrote about that. And so those things kind of got commingled. And so if you look at what's happened since then, Microsoft has taken steps toward this post-UWP, post-store future. Again, not meaning that those things go away, but they're no longer like it. They're no longer the only way to do these things. And if you think about monetization of apps in the store, it says more about the store than it does about UWP, because one of the problems with that ad monetization was that it could only be used in UWP apps. It was yet another UWP only thing. And so I don't think it didn't work. Remember, Microsoft was going to do that 90-10 split that kind of never happened and then quietly disappeared. The store never became a lucrative place for developers to sell apps. And I don't think the ad monetization works. There are no millionaires driving around with fur coats and convertibles and diamond rings and stuff because they wrote UWP apps that had ads in them, right? They just aren't. We don't know any people like that. There are no examples of that. And so I don't know how this works. I'm ignorant of this, but as far as monetizing apps out in the world, there obviously are various methods. This isn't going to prevent people from charging for an app. The nice thing is they can charge for an app now, and it doesn't have to be locked to the store. They could sell it to you out on the web on their own or whatever. So it's interesting, because some of the people out in the world who criticized me last year when I said that UWP was dead, because a guy from Microsoft said it, are now saying, well, maybe UWP really is dead. And this really is not a further indication of anything about UWP. Nothing has changed. UWP is not the focus. That hasn't changed. I think this is more about the store. The store is not working. And again, that hasn't really changed either. So look, in the sense that nobody likes to be criticized for telling the truth. There's a small little bitter part of me that it takes a little bit of glee in something like this, only because look, I told you so, I try not to be that person, but I don't want this stuff to fail. I'm not like out to get UWP or the store or Microsoft or Windows or whatever it is. So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to be rational about this, but
the store's not in a great spot.
Yeah.
Which makes you kind of wonder. It's like, would you buy your games in the Windows Store right now?
Well, so here's the thing. To defend Windows Store, or the Microsoft Store, I guess, the one thing I will say is apps or games, like I buy Photoshop Elements through. I think I've already talked about this. The licensing that you get with that is a huge advantage as a customer. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. There are games you can buy through the store that are Xbox Play Anywhere games that will work on Xbox as well, and there's no reason for that to stop. Those apps and games both are unaffected by what just happened. Those are not ad based. When you buy a big Xbox game, you're paying for it, $60 or whatever the cost is. There's no risk to it. If you probably remember better than I do, but if you go back in time a little bit, I want to say this was probably dates back to Windows 10, the beginning of Windows 10, when the store games started up, the big AAA title games. I mean, there were some weird limitations with store games compared to true Win32 games out in the world, and I don't remember what those were. I assume that that kind of thing has probably disappeared, or is better.
So. There's some fringe issues, I think, still. I don't know how HDR and all that stuff works yet, because we haven't really seen a lot of that. I mean, Microsoft, hell, is even publishing their games in Steam now. So
yes, right. And that's the thing. Look, the beauty of the PC ecosystem has always been choice. You have a choice of hardware manufacturers. You've always had a choice of, software if you wanted to buy Microsoft's Office or some other products or whatever it was. And it's true of games too. You have, as a gamer, have great choices. Most gamers probably will pay attention to Steam, to Epic, maybe to Microsoft, and you can mix and match. Microsoft's making their games available via Steam, but I mean, to date, if let's say like the Halo games were only available through Xbox or through the Microsoft Store or whatever, for some reason, fine. I mean, it's not what's okay. That's whatever. I mean, why would that prevent you from playing them? But if they are available on Steam and you prefer that, that's great too. So I don't think this is. I don't know. I feel like I'm sorry, just personally. There are a couple times now, like Windows Phone was an example of this, where I kind of realized the era of what was happening, and I tried really hard to communicate to people like this thing is over, you need to move on. And I got a lot of really crappy feedback from people, and then after a year or two, it was like, yeah, actually, it is over, And it's happening again with this UWP thing. And look, I'm not always right, but this isn't like an opinion thing. Like in both of those cases, this was Microsoft communicated that this thing is over, and then all I did was report on that. And I just like getting shat on for something like that is crazy to me. But that is the toxicity and the state of conversation
people.
These days. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, the good news is, if you're saving your dollars up for a Service Hub 2X,
yes,
you can put that money.
Tell me, by the way, if you ever get any crap from people who are invested in that little ecosystem,
So here's my headline was initially Microsoft cancels Surface Hub 2X. And the reason why I didn't run with that is because at some point in 5 years, they might make this thing again and it'll be a Surface Hub 2X, although they probably call it something different. Somebody be like, see, they didn't actually cancel it. But
just like Courier, they can say that about Courier now.
Yeah, exactly. But what we do know is that they initially, I think, said last year, maybe it was in 2018. I can't remember even when. It was around Ignite timeframe. They said, hey, we're doing the 2S, and that'll come in 2019, and we're doing the 2X, and it'll come in 2020. The 2X.
Actually, let me help you with the time frame, because if I'm not mistaken, they announced it was Surface Hub 2, but it was what we now call X 2 years ago at Build.
Yes.
1 year ago at Build, they were like, okay, we're still going to do it.
That's it.
First, we're going to do S, and S will ship in 2019, and X will ship afterwards.
Well, I think this is at 2020, but it's not. Okay. It's not coming. Their focus is on the 85-inch and some other stuff, and they're going to bring a lot of the proclaimed features of the 2X to the 2S. But I don't think we're going to get the rotating, at least not yet, or the tiling functionality.
Okay. So, sorry to interrupt, but those are the two things that were most amazing about this product, right?
Yep.
Obviously, the thinness and all that stuff was cool and whatever. So one of the things that they did when they came out with the 2S was they made that system modular. And the idea was there's this CPU thing, you can kind of pull it and plug in the new one and you get X. So have you heard anything about
I haven't heard anything about that. All I've heard is that the software for the 2X, which is supposed to be based on Windows Core OS, was lagging behind significantly, and it just wasn't coming together. And so I don't know if that version has. I think that specific version has been canceled, like that software version. Now, it doesn't mean they can't implement that feature with other software that Microsoft is working on.
Surface Hub. So whatever the current version of Surface Hub, that is its own. I know it's modified from Windows 10, but it's a specialty
I think it's like
version.
1703 or something like that.
Oh, so then, okay. Yeah, but it's okay, but it's a special, like Surface Hub OS, essentially, whatever they call it. Interesting. So they're going to stick with the software, or I'm sure they'll upgrade it.
Yeah, I think the big push for this year is they're going to upgrade the software like significantly, but they're not going to be upgrading the hardware other than introducing or releasing the 85-inch version.
Now we're talking through this in real time, because this just happened, and you just reported on it, I should say. But you found out about this fairly recently, and it's interesting as we're talking. I sort of thought, this shows the risk in pre-announcing something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought of Surface Duo and Surface Neo and how Panos Panay had kind of come out and said, I really don't like to do this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that was due to what had happened. Like, he must have known by then that Surface Hub 2X couldn't happen. And they had announced that thing a year and a half earlier.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think Neo's the one to watch. I think pretty confidently they can probably ship Duo, right? It's not even based on their OS. It's based on Android. They're doing just the on-top level work, right? There's already dual folding devices out there. They are just kind of skinning it, putting their polish on it.
Yeah, but they got to get the platform right. Like the 10X, which is we'll call it a Windows Core OS generation version, whatever.
Yeah.
They have to get that right too.
Yep.
Man. All right. So let me step back again for a second, because one of the things that just happened, you and I talked about Microsoft earnings and how they had essentially hit $2 billion. And both of us were pretty positive on that.
Mm-hmm.
When I went back and looked at the transcription for the conference call after the financial announcements, they basically said, we thought this was going to be higher. Like, that figure was lower than they expected. Now, to be clear, Surface has never earned $2 billion in revenues in any quarter. This was going to be the first time it happened. I'd say it basically happened, but and they didn't specify what the issue was, but they talked about, they mentioned specifically consumer didn't underperformed, and some people theorize it might, like, they didn't ship the earbuds. I don't think earbuds would have moved the needle on revenues too much, but whatever. There is the question. I think their product line is excellent. I think their products are excellent. I know you can pick apart individual things or whatever, but they released 3 brand new products. They're all pretty great. I expected them to do very well. I still think $2 billion is pretty good, but Microsoft indicated that this thing underperformed from what they had expected. Now, flash forward to this coming holiday season. Surface 2X never happens. 2S has been updated. It's whatever it is. Not that that's like a big blockbuster product or anything, but whatever. It speaks to innovation and I mean, what does Surface look like if Microsoft does come out with the Duo and says, we're going to wait till next spring to do Neo, because this it would be the software probably is not quite where we want it. I mean, at some point, you have all these setbacks. You can go back to all the stuff you talked about in your book from the first gen, especially in the write-off or the write-down.
Write-down, yep.
Write-down, sorry. The Surface Gate problems with Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book. And I mean, at some point, does someone look at this thing and say, guys, like, what's going on here?
I think the telltale sign for Neo, whether like its shape, whatever, all that going on, will come. When is that conference? In August or September? It's when IFA happens.
Yep. Late August, early September.
Right,
like that,
because that's where a lot of hardware vendor partners go to show off what they're going to be shipping for the holiday season. If they are letting people, really play with the foldable devices and things, are like, just, have at it, and they're not behind like 6 inches of glass, you can't look at it. I think
you just reminded me of another problem, because that kind of just did happen. We at CES, several PC makers, or at least several products across a few PC makers, were listed as, well, this will have 10X in the future. Yeah. But we're going to ship it first with Pro. And why? What?
Yeah.
Imagine if that's weird, right? Like, if that happens again in September or whatever that time frame is, I mean, that means they're missing the holiday season again. Yep. It's not just Microsoft; it's everybody. That tells you it's a software, obviously. I'm sure there's a feeling. I mean, that's not, and I should say that's not on Surface, right? That's on the broader platform, the Windows software stuff. There may be, and again, to be clear to everybody, we're just talking through this. This is fog of war. I mean, I'll talk about this tomorrow and say something completely different. I don't know, but look, they did RT, they did 10S and S mode. They did Windows 10 on ARM. Like, these things, none of these have taken off. There may be this feeling like, look, if we're going to take this core of Windows and move it to something new, We got to get it right this time because it has failed so many times. No one is ever going to take us seriously ever again. There may be it internally at Microsoft this feeling that like we have to nail this one because it's over otherwise, right? Windows is, which by the way I'd be okay with personally. I mean, I like Windows the way it is, but you can only try to flog this thing so many times before people just tune you out. Like whatever, like especially like their partners. Imagine Lenovo, Dell, HP. They're like, you know what? We're good. We got Chromebooks over here. Don't worry about it. Like just stop. We'll sell your products as long as you make Windows. It's fine. But this other thing, forget it. Just forget it.
Yeah, it'll be. That's the thing to watch, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing to watch to see how this materializes, because I think we've already seen the first tragedy of it, of 2x, whatever is or isn't happening with it, with the software side specifically, because it could ship, I guess, potentially with 10x, but that.
I went off on a huge tangent there. Could you maybe explain what is happening? Sorry, we got so far afield from Surface Hub there.
Anyways, 2x, everything's an X, was supposed to ship in 2020 with a version of Windows Core OS. I believe that Windows Core OS version slated for that thing is dead, which obviously has massive implications for shipping the 2X, which is why the 2X is not shipping this year, or potentially ever for that matter, until they figure out what they're going to do. They are going to modify their existing software to bring some of the features to the 2S. So effectively, if you want a Surface Hub, 2S is your only option, and they should just rebrand it to the 2. And
so they're losing rotation?
I believe rotation, and then the tiling support.
Yeah, where you can have multiple displays.
Which is probably why they're shipping an 85-inch, and they originally did not announce that.
Right, that's right. That's right. So what's the first one, like 50, 52?
I think it's a 55. So they'll have a 55 and an 85, which you don't need an 85 if you could take two 55 side by side, but you can't do that anymore. So here we are.
Yep. Okay. So it's kind of just back to the way it was originally.
Yeah, pretty much. What about basement improvement 2X? That's a great one.
2X. I'm doing
Mars.
a 2X in the bathroom, honey. It's been delayed to 2021. I've been 2X'd.
I will say that on Monday we will get the first photos from Mars. But I mean,
here we go, finally.
Yep, I will show you the old basement and the new basement. Actually, my wife is, I think, outside this office right now painting the rest of the trim. And then
the real hero in this story.
Yeah, she put in many hours painting.
Many minutes working on the paint.
Yeah, the bathroom won't be done, but that was never going to be included in the photos anyways, just because it's a bath. It's a toilet, it's a stand-up shower, it's a sink. Sure.
Yep. Well, that's exactly what we finally had done over after the sewer exploded.
Yeah. It's like what is that? A 3/4 bathroom? Is that what they call it? Something like that?
I think so, yeah, because it has a shower but not a bath, yeah.
Yeah. There actually literally is a quarter in there, so I guess I could call it a $1 bathroom.
Or I guess you call it a 1 3/4. Or is that what it is? Like a...
Yeah, maybe 1 3/4, I guess. Look at us. Look at us real estate professionals right here.
I've only watched 3 million episodes of House Hunters. I should know exactly what this is called. Whatever.
Well, yeah, it's because you're watching that show and you're like, how is he making ends meet when all he does is knit scarves for hamsters and she collects clovers?
Yeah, I literally, I've said this to my wife. My wife will ask me a question, like she'll say something like, "How much was that house again?" Like we'll be on house 2 or 3 and whatever, and I'm like, "What?" I mean, I literally, I'm like, my mind is a million miles. I watch that show and I can't even. I guess I'm watching things move on the screen, but I'm thinking about some work thing or something. Like I tune it out. Well, I literally just drift off.
Old legends have you, and you'll see where this is going in a second, that I guess it still exists today, but we'll see. Apparently in Hollywood, they used to have like a running joke between cast people to see who could create the most ridiculous looking hacking scene, like in a movie. Because no, everyone thinks like, oh, you sit down, I'm in the term. Like everybody knows that's not it. But they used to try to get more egregious. I think they do the same thing on House Hunters, where they try to make the most ridiculous job titles and then say, oh, their budget's $3 million.
Right. He invents private scents for celebrities, and she gets reclaimed feathers from pigeons and makes it into furniture.
Reclaimed feathers.
They have $1.7 million to spend in Delaware. It's like, what?
Anyways,
Yeah.
so is it this week? I guess it was last Saturday. I shipped Paul some boxes. First off, I made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
That's true.
And
Well,
then,
you made me an offer my wife could have refused.
well,
but,
yes, but
but I logic through it for her.
Yeah, and so I shipped Paul some stuff. You want to talk about him?
Yeah. So as some people probably remember, I've been I have these great speakers. They're really just powered bookshelf speakers. Edifier speakers out in the sunroom that we use with Chromecast audio. And for a variety of problems that I've been having, I've been sort of thinking about redoing these things and getting off the Google stuff. And I'm like, well, I feel like I'm getting kind of funneled right into the Sonos ecosystem because there are a couple of other alternatives, but there's really, for whole house audio, there really isn't much else. I've resisted Sonos mostly because of cost. Frankly, I'm cheap, But I did find those, people know, I think IKEA sells $100 Sonos speakers. They sound great. They sound just as good as Sonos ones to me. The problem for our sunroom is that it's a big room. And it's not so much a big room circumference-wise, although it's a pretty big room. It's, 15 feet tall. So to fill this room with sound, you need decent speakers. We had tested some Sonos ones. They didn't work out. It was just not too much space. It just didn't work. I'm trying to think of the timing of this, but after I'd gone to IKEA and bought those speakers, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get this Sonos thing. I don't remember the name of it. I think it's called Sonos Port, and it's the new way to bring Sonos or to bring legacy speakers or equipment, whatever you might have, into the Sonos ecosystem. So in my case, I would it's a non-amplified, because I don't need amplifiers for the powered speakers, a non-amplified way to plug my speakers in and have them be part of Sonos. It costs $450. And I don't know when I was intending to make this purchase, but it was probably going to be months down the road. But Brad came to me one day, and Brad, as you might have heard if you listen to the show, bought some Sonos Beams. I think they're for the TV.
Yep.
Sonos Sub, maybe two.
Just one.
Two? Just one. And he had originally had his Sonos 5s, which are really expensive. These are $500 a piece. So and it's something I had looked into to replace my speakers. It would have cost $1,000, right? So I'm like, $1,000. But Brad doesn't need his Sonos 5s anymore. So he's like, look, I was going to sell these things on, I don't know what you said,
Craigslist or wherever. Yeah.
But he's like, if you want them, I'll sell them to you for $400, and then I pay for shipping. So it's probably like $450
or something, whatever like that. Less than one speaker, effectively.
So he shipped them to me this week. Yeah, what's the tape called? It's funny.
It's called Gorilla Tape. It's made here in Cincinnati. It's good tape.
I had a really hard time getting into these boxes. So
that was the whole point.
I almost would have been better off just cutting through the box at a place where there was no tape. I literally said to my wife, I was like, have you ever seen anything like, I swear to God, the way I said it was, Brad told me the name of it, but I can't remember. And then she says, oh, it's Gorilla Tape.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right. Anyway, they sound great. So they're big. I was curious, like I had looked at reviews of them, and it's kind of, I can't give you dimensions here, but I'm going to say that the Edifier speakers I had are probably about 3/4 the size. I haven't done like a side-by-side comparison, but there are so many advantages to these things. They're probably louder. I mean, they're as good or better. There's no doubt about it. Louder, I would say. They're wireless, so they can be positioned anywhere. One of the constraints I had with these things were that my existing speakers was I needed some place to plug in the Chromecast. They're on a certain kind of speaker wire. If I wanted to put them far out, I'd have to figure out how to run this wire. At one point, I had thought about going under the floor with the wiring because we have a crawl space in there, which is outside and is awful. Gravel too, it would be painful. But of course, these things you can kind of position anywhere. So I've already used them. I mean, I think every single night. We were listening to music last night. We listened to music the day they arrived. I guess they arrived Wednesday. Yeah, so they sound great.
Yeah, no, they're great speakers. They were just too nice to be not used.
They were too nice.
That was the problem. It's like I looked at them, but I couldn't. There was no easy way to get them to work with the TV setup in the living room, and it's like
They're
And then,
really big and heavy. Like,
yeah, they're 14 pounds each. That's why I had to use the Gorilla Tape and put them in 2 different boxes.
Yeah, and then of course, the day they arrived, FedEx dropped. I knew they were coming in 2 separate boxes because Brad had told me this. And FedEx, I was in the shower, I guess, and my wife answered the door, and I go down. She didn't even say anything to me. I went downstairs. There's this ginormous box sitting on the counter, and I'm like, "Hey, the speaker arrived." And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "There's supposed to be 2 of these, right?" She's like, "Oh no, I didn't." And I'm like, so it took me 15 minutes to break through that box, get the thing out, set it up, listen to it just by itself, and I was like, "Okay, this sounds good." And then I sat down at my desk and I got an email from FedEx that said, both of your packages have been delivered. I'm like, "You what?" And I actually clicked on one of them and it said left on the front porch. And I was like, and I went outside, the other box was sitting out there. The guy just kind of came back. Was like,
yeah, it was just like, oh man.
Just dropped it off or whatever. So anyway, I was just glad to get it. But anyway, thank you for doing that. And it's,
yeah, no, I'm just happy that they worked out. And
yeah. And we're definitely going to use them. I mean,
yep.
So,
boy.
Yeah. And so I guess the point of this is for the same price as I could have spent on this little box, I got speakers that are probably better. Let's just call them better because I mean, between
at
the
least
sound
equal
quality,
to at minimum.
Yeah, but would you even figure out the other stuff?
Yeah.
That the other advantages. I mean, it really works out. They're better overall. And then think of it from the flip side. Like, I'm going to spend $450 on a box to bring a $100 pair of speakers into this environment. It's like, I mean, they listen. I recommend them highly. I will never not recommend them. They're great speakers. They'll still have a home somewhere in my house, and we'll use them for whatever. But like, they're great speakers. That's not changed. I mean, I really recommend them. But to get what is essentially $1,000 pair of speakers, that Sonos will probably stop supporting next Thursday.
I was gonna say it's gonna be great when they come out in the spring and it'll be like jackpot.
No, I mean they'll be many years, so that's good.
Yep. Yeah, they're still selling them, so you at least got 5 years out of them.
Oh no, I'm not worried about that at all. So. Especially after this recent, that was the other thing. Like, I had started down the Sonos path before the controversy.
Mm-hmm.
And as that controversy unfurled, I thought to myself, this doesn't change my opinion of this company or its products at all. I was really surprised by the negative kind of backlash that had occurred.
They were too.
Yeah. But you know what? That's going to work out for the benefit of everybody because they're going to, support these things even better than they were already. I mean, those products, I think they had promised like 10 years of support, basically. They had been, I mean, some of those things were 15 or 16 years old. So, I mean, that's fine.
Yep.
That's good.
So, all right. I got to go take photos of my basement for Monday.
Yes.
You got anything else going on?
I don't know. I'm going to try to do Ask Paul today. After the show at 2:00, I'm going to do What the Tech with Andrew. We usually do that Tuesday. We try to do it Thursday. It's the way it's been going lately. So that's going to cut into my afternoon dramatically, obviously. Usually when I finish a podcast like that, I'm drained.
Yeah.
I'm just done. I'm going to try to do Ask Paul today. So if I can't get that done, I'll do it tomorrow morning. But
there we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to everybody else who tuned in today, we'll catch all of you right back here, hopefully on Monday. I got it right.
Plus, you have like 4 weeks to go until the next Microsoft thing. So
yeah. So
thank God.
All right. I'll catch you later.
Have a good weekend.
You too.